In this video, we want to look at operations with polynomials. Now, in the last video, we talked about what polynomials are. They could be a polynomial function, could be something like a quadratic, x squared plus 5x minus 2. That would be a quadratic or a trinomial because there are 3 terms. Or we could have something that would have a cubic in it, x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3x. That's also a trinomial, 3 terms. Or we could have something that maybe only has 2 terms, minus x cubed plus 2. That would be a binomial. Now today what we want to look at is if we have these different types of polynomials, how can we do operations with them? And when I talk about operations, what I'm talking about is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Now, for today, we are going to look at the first 3, how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And we have done this already with quadratics. So now we're just going to expand it to other types of polynomials also. So let's look at our notes. If we want to add these 2 polynomials, adding polynomials is really just about combining like terms. So if you look, and I'll use colors here, there are x squareds, there is just an x, and then finally there is just a number. So what we're going to do is combine those like terms. So if we combine our x squared, we have negative 4x squared plus negative x squared. That would be a negative 5x squared. Now we're going to look at the x's. We have negative 6x plus 7x will give us just plus x. And finally, we have 18 plus 8, which would give us 26. So there is our final answer with combining our like terms. If we have a subtraction, we do the same type of thing. 6x squared minus a negative x squared minus a negative makes this a plus, so that is 7x squared. Negative 12x squared minus 24, which would be negative 36x. And finally, 48 minus a negative is going to make that a plus. And so when you add 48 to a 63, where'd my pen go here? That's going to give us a plus 111. Now, if we have a larger polynomial or a higher degree polynomial, you can see this one is a 4th degree polynomial because our leading coefficients go to x to the 4th. All that's going to do is we just got to be more careful with matching it up. So we have a negative 11x to the 4th minus a negative 11x to the 4th. So minus and negative makes that plus. That is negative. Those are opposites, so they're just going to cancel. I now have minus x cubed. I have no x cubes in the second polynomial, so that just stays the same. I have negative 3x squared and minus a 5x squared, so negative 3 minus 5 gives me a negative 8x squared. 10x minus a negative is plus, minus a negative is plus, so that's 17x. And negative 2 minus 13 is negative 15. So the hard part here when we do these operations is adding and subtracting with these polynomials, especially when we have the difference, is just to kind of keep track of all those things. Now, let me show you a trick here that can kind of help Let me get rid of what I put on here. One of the things you can kind of do to help is you have your first polynomial, and you can just kind of get rid of the parentheses on the first one. And then on the second one, if it's a minus, just go through and change all of the signs. Plus 11x to the fourth, minus 5x squared, plus 7x, minus 13. And once you have done that and you have changed, now once I've got rid of that negative sign, it's a little bit easier to keep track of. You can see a little bit easier here now how I have a plus 11 and a minus 11x to the fourth in order to cancel. So that's one trick, is just distribute that -1 that's kind of in the front through each term and rewrite them. That just kind of helps you to keep track of those terms. The other thing, so there's addition and subtraction. The other thing we're going to look at today is the product. And there's two types of products. The first, let me look at number 5 here first. The first is if you have something and we're just going to FOIL. And if you remember, our FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. So that would give me 9y squared plus 24y minus 24y minus 64. These are going to cancel, and I will get 9y squared minus 64. Now, that's something we've done before, but I want you to look at what we actually did when we FOILed. What we actually did when we FOILed is we took this first term and we just multiplied it by both of the other terms. And then we took the second term and we multiplied it times each of the other terms. And that's going to be important as we expand this to more difficult ones. It's not really FOIL anymore. I guess I could call it like expanded FOIL, but it's different. So let's look at this one. 2x squared times this polynomial. I'm going to take this times all 4 terms. So 2x squared plus 2x cubed is 4x to the 5th. 2x squared times x squared is negative 2x to the 4th. 2x squared plus 3x is plus 6x cubed. And 2x squared minus 5 is minus 10x squared. Now, if you remember, just to reiterate, if I have x squared plus, if I have 3x squared plus 4x squared, if I'm adding, I just add the numbers in front, and I get 7x squared. But if I am multiplying those two terms, I multiply the numbers and get 12, and then for the exponents, I add 2 plus 2 is 4. If I had 2x cubed plus 5x squared, if I was trying to add those, I couldn't add them. They're not like terms. But if I try to multiply them, I multiply the numbers, 2 times 5, and I get 10. And then when I'm multiplying, I add the exponents. So that's just a little review of how we deal with exponents that will help us as we do these. So as we get to harder ones, we now really can't FOIL because we have 2 terms in the first polynomial and 3 in the second. But what we're going to do is take the first term times all 3 parts. You can see that kind of looks like FOIL, first, outside. But we have more terms than just 4. So our first is x times 2x squared, which is 2x cubed. X times negative x minus x squared. X times 5 is 5x. And then we take the second term times all three. 3 times 2x is 6x squared. 3 times minus x is minus 3x. And 3 times 5 is 15. Now we've got to combine like terms, kind of like we did at the beginning. I only have 1x cubed. I have 2x squareds, and that's plus 5x squared. I have 2 x's, that's plus 2x. And then I also have the 15, which is just the number. To get our answer. Now, if I have it written like this, okay, x plus 2, quantity x plus 2 squared, this is not, I'm not even going to write it down. I can't just square both of these. What we have to do when you have something raised to a power like that is you have to remember squared means 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. So what you have to do is you have to FOIL. And if I FOILed, that's going to give me 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. Now, if you can't see how I got that from FOILing, I kind of skipped a step. I'll let you kind of figure it out if you want to try that. But many times when people see this, they think, oh, I just square the 2x and get 4x squared. And I square the 1 and I get 1. But if you do that, you miss this middle term. So you have to FOIL that to get that. Now, what happens instead of having just 2 polynomials, you have 3 you want to multiply? Well, what you want to do is you want to pick the first 2 and FOIL those. First, outside, inside, last. And if I do that, I get x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6 is x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now I bring down the one I haven't used yet, x minus 1. Now I am going to multiply that. And what that is, I'm going to have to take x times all 3, which gives me x cubed plus 5x squared plus 6x. And then negative 1 times all 3, which will be negative x squared minus 5x minus 6. And then when I combine them, x cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. Now, here's another hard one. X plus 2 cubed. Just like this one, I'm going to have to write this out. I have to write this out and do x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. I have to take the first 2 and FOIL them. And if I do that, I'll get x squared plus 4x plus 4. I will let you try that on your own. We've done a lot of FOILing to this point. You should be able to do that. Now, if we multiply, I take these 3, I get x cubed plus 4x squared plus 4x. And then I take the second term and I multiply everything by that, and I get 2x squared plus 8x plus 8. Combine my like terms, x cubed plus 6x squared plus 12x plus 8. So today we looked at adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials, or doing operations with polynomials. The next section we look at tomorrow will be what happens when we try to divide polynomials, and that gets a little bit interesting. But for today, it's just adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials.